Man, hey, what's going on? I hope you guys are doing all right, man. I know some of y'all miss school. Some of y'all are happy to be free. Regardless, hey, we got this quiz tomorrow. This is gonna serve as your 5-4 quiz review, and I hope it helps. Let's get started. All right, on this first example right here, it says use of sum and difference. Formula to determine the exact values. Alright, so yeah, I'm not gonna do the both on each question. Alright, that's where you come in. Okay. Hopefully you've been practicing and you can do both of these now. I'm gonna do for 195. Alright, let's do I'm gonna start with sine of I'm going to do the difference here. Just that's kind of how I feel right now. So sine of 240 minus 45. Alright. So the difference right here, sine of 240 is negative radical 3/2. Sine of 45 is going to be radical 2/2, excuse me. We use the minus sign here because remember, sine of A minus B, sine of A, cosine of B, minus cosine of A, sine of B. So I'm just following that model. This is A, this is B. So again, sine of 240 is negative radical 3/2. Cosine of 45 is radical 2/2. And then cosine of 240 is going to be negative 1/2. And then sine of 45 is radical 2/2. So multiplying this out, that's negative radical 6/4. Negative. There's only one negative over here, so that's a plus. Radical 2/4 is radical 2 minus radical 6/4. Alright. And again, man, you could have really, you could have did a number of things. Like you could have did sine of 150 plus 45. Alright, you still would have got the same thing. Alright. This time sine of A plus B, so you have sine of A 1/2 times radical 2/2. Sine of A cosine of B plus cosine of A, which would be a negative radical 3/2. Times radical 2/2. You still end up with radical 2/4 minus radical 6/4. See, negative times positive, which is the same thing. Radical 2 minus radical 6/4. Alright, so that's sum and difference. Sum, difference. Alright. Over here, cosine of 375. So you can do like 330. You can do the sum of 330 plus 45. Alright, so you have cosine of 330 is going to be radical 3/2. Cosine of 45 is radical 2/2. Since this is a plus, and I forgot to review the rule for cosine, the sum, but it's cosine A, cosine of B, minus sine of A, sine of B. So sine of 330 is going to be a negative 1/2. And sine 45 is radical 2/2. So that's going to give us radical 6 plus negative is a plus radical 2 over 4, of course, right? 2 times 2 is 4. All right, if you were to do the difference, let's see. I wouldn't do the difference here. I just wouldn't, because remember we do between 0 and 360. Yeah. You have to use something that's coterminal to, like, for example, you have to do like 420 if you did the difference minus 45, right? And this is equivalent to 60. So, yeah, don't stress over that one. All right, I would do the sum right here. That's a good question, man, for the quiz, actually. All right, tangent, man. Yo, I'm gonna be honest. When I was going through y'all work, man, all right, some of y'all are still struggling with this. So let's talk about it. Tangent of 345. All right. For a sum, I could do 300 plus 45. All right. So what you need to do first is, what is tangent of 300? All right. Well, tangent of 300. All right. Here's 300 right here. As you can see where I'm pointing. So negative radical 3 over 2 over 1/2. Right there. Sine over cosine. So negative radical 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. If you keep flip that, you'll keep this top, change that to multiplication, and flip this bottom. So it'll be 2 over 1. So see how that cancels? So I'm left with just negative radical 3. And then tangent of 45 is going to be radical 2 over 2 divided by itself, which is 1. So when I do tangent 345 and you apply this sum rule, tangent tells us for the sum you have tan A plus tan B all over 1 minus tan A times tan B. All right. I saw some people just put this in their calculator and give me that decimal. That decimal is an approximation. All right, we want exact values. That's why you got to write this out. So tan of A is negative radical 3. Tan of B, all right, is 1. And then at the bottom we have 1 minus tan A, which is negative radical 3. And then we have tan of B, which is 1. So at the top, that doesn't simplify. But right here, the 1 times this is 1 minus negative radical 3, right? 1 times negative radical 3 is negative radical 3, but negative times a negative is a positive. So you have 1 plus radical 3. And there we go. All right. Let's see, cosine of 105, excuse me. So for this one, I'm going to do cosine of 40 plus 60. So, I'm sorry, 45, man. Y'all, when I tell you it's late, it's late. I'm making this late, so I hope I'm not making mistakes. I tend to make mistakes when I'm like sleepy. All right, cosine of 45. Cosine of 45 is going to be, let me review that real quick. Cosine of 45 is cosine of A, cosine of B. Since I'm doing the sum right here, I'm going to go minus sine of A sine of b. So cosine of 45 is radical 2 over 2. Cosine of 60 is 1/2. And all this is coming from unit circle, man. Sine of a is radical 2 over 2. And sine of 60 is radical 3 over 2. So that gives me radical 2 minus radical 6 all over 4. That's radical 2. That's radical 6 minus radical 6 over 4. Real quick, let's say we did the difference. Maybe I did 150 minus 45. Alright. That would be cosine of 150 is negative radical 3 over 2. Cosine of 45 is radical 2 over 2. Plus sine of 150 is going to be 1/2. Sine of 45 is radical 2 over 2. That right there gives you negative radical 6. This one gives you radical 2 all over 4. But if you rewrote this, so the positive is first, radical 2 minus radical 6 over 4, which is the same thing. Alright. Alright, keeping it going. Tan of 75. Alright, for 75, simple. You can do 45 to 30. Right? So real quick, tan of 45 is 1. Tan of 30 equals, what's the sine of 30? 1/2, so 1/2 over radical 3 over 2. Keep change flip. 1/2 times radical 3 over 2. Oops. Two over radical 3. That cancels, so 1 over radical 3. So, I'm glad I'm doing it like this. So you can see, it's really simple to simplify these guys, alright? Just please pay attention. So since it's addition right here, you have tan of A, which is 1, alright, plus tan of B, all over 1 minus tan of A, which is 1, times tan of B. Now, with fractions, guys, I just need a common denominator. So I'm going to convert this 1 to have that same denominator. So I'm going to make that radical 3 over radical 3. That's 1, right? Anything over itself is 1, right? Plus 1 over radical 3. Now, this is going to seem like more stuff than it actually is because I'm trying to explain, I'm trying to write this all the way out. Even right here, 1 times 1 over radical 3 is 1 over radical 3. So that's 1 minus 1 over radical 3, which, again, just like we did with the top, we can turn this 1 into radical 3 over radical 3 so I can have the same denominator. Like that, okay? So now at the top, and again, if you missed that, just rewind it, all right? It's a few seconds, just rewind it so you can see it. So now at the top, I have radical 3 plus 1 all over radical 3. All right, common denominator. At the bottom, I have radical 3 minus 1 all over radical 3. Right, common denominator. Now, I have a fraction over a fraction. So we do the same thing. We keep change, flip, keep the, I did not mean to make that big. Keep the top, right? Change the multiplication and flip the bottom, right? Flip this. So this is now the top. This is now the bottom. Now, if you see this, did this right, you see those cancel. And I'm left with just radical 3 plus 1 over radical 3 minus 1. That's it. Now again, somebody's gonna be tempted to just put this in your calculator, right? And man, I hate to say, if you just do that and you get like 3.73, and it's a longer decimal than this, but that's an approximation. That's not the exact value. Notice the direction says find the exact value. So you'd be wrong, okay? You gotta find the exact value. All right, let's keep going. All right, it says using right triangle trigonometry, find the exact value for the following sum and difference problems. All right. Find sine of u minus v. So let me go ahead and address that. Sine of u minus v equals sine of u cosine of v minus cosine of u sine of v. Wait a minute. I'm jumping the gun right here. Cosine of u and sine of v are both in the first quadrant. Yep. So let's do this first. Let's address u. First quadrant. Cosine is 3 over 5, so Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared is c squared. So 3 squared is 9, plus b squared equals 25. 25 minus 9 is 16. The square root of 16 is 4. Right here, for v, whoa, terrible drawing. In the first quadrant, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Pythagorean theorem, 5 squared is 25, plus b squared equals 169. If I subtract 25, that's 144. The square root of 144 is 12. So if this is sine, then cosine equals 12 over 13. And over here, sine of u equals 4 over 5. All right, we need that information. So back to this problem. Sine of u minus v, we have sine of u, which is 4 over 5. And then we have cosine of v, 12 over 13, minus cosine of u, which is 3 over 5, sine of v, 5 over 13. So now we just multiply this. So we get 48 over 65 minus 15 over 65, right? So 48 minus 15 is going to be what, 33 over 65? So that's sine of u minus v. Cosine of u minus v. remember that's, oh man, cosine of u, cosine of v, plus sine of u, sine of v. So cosine of u is 3 over 5. Cosine of v is 12 over 13. Sine of u is 4 over 5. And sine of v is 5 over 13. So that gives us 12, 24, 36 over 65 plus 20 over 65. So 56 over 25. All right. One more from this section. So it says tangent. So tan of u minus v means tan of u minus tan of v all over 1 minus tan of u times tan of v. So tan of u, all right, will be opposite over adjacent 4/3 minus 5/12 all over 1 minus tan of u times 5/12. So at the top right here, I need common denominators. So the common denominator is going to be 12. So I make this 12 by multiplying by 4. I got to multiply by 4 at the top. So that's 16. 16 minus 5 is going to be 11 over 12. And then down here, 1 minus 4 times 5 is 20. Oops. Over 36. So now one more time, I need common denominators. I'm going to make that 1 36 over 36. So I can have the same denominator right here. So 36 minus 20 is 16 over 36 all over 11 over 12. So now we just keep change flip. Let me move this out of the way. I don't need that anymore. Keep change flip this guy. So 11 over 12 times 36 over 16. So I got 396 divided by 192. All right. And reduce that. And just again, punch in your calculator, math fraction, you get 33 over 16. Right there, 33 over 16. All right, right here, same difference. This one's in quadrant 2. All right, so u in quadrant 2. So negative 2 over 3. Do Pythagorean theorem. 2 squared is 4 plus b squared equals 9. So minus 9 minus 5, 9 minus 4 is 5. So this is the square root of 5. This is in quadrant 4. V is in quadrant 4. And it is sine is negative 4 over 5. So 3, 4, 5 triangle. All right. Do Pythagorean theorem. 16, 25. 25 minus 16 is 9. The square root of 9 is 3. So now we know what cosine is. we got sine of u equals square root of 5 over 3. And we know what sine is. We just need cosine of v is 3 over 5. So now sine of u plus v is going to be sine of u cosine of v plus cosine of u sine of v. So sine of u is radical 5 over 3 times cosine of v 3 over 5. And no, these don't cancel out, guys. This is underneath the radical. Cosine of u is negative 2/3. Sine of v is negative 4/5. So this gives me 3 radical 5 over 15. Whoa, that's a terrible 5. 3 radical 5 over 15. That becomes a positive because negative times negative. 8 over 15. So that's just 8 plus 3 radical 5 over 15. No, this doesn't reduce. This is a radical 5. Alright. You actually can factor out a 3 out of this whole thing. So I take that back. You can reduce it. If you, no, you can't. You can't. There's no 3 and 8. Alright. Cosine of u plus v. So cosine of u, cosine of v, minus sine of u, sine of v, because it says a plus. So remember that sign changes. So cosine of u is negative 2 over 3. Cosine of v is 3 over 5. Minus sine of u. Sine of u is radical 5 over 3. The sine of v is going to be negative 4 over 5. So now that's negative 6 over 15. That's going to be negative, so plus 4 radical 5 over 15. So that this gives us 4 radical 5 minus 6 over 15. Or you can write it as negative 6 plus 4 radical 5 over 15. They both work. Same thing. I just like writing the positive value first. I don't like having a negative first. Alright, let's tackle this back. Verify the identity. So sine the power of 2 plus x. So sine the power of 2 plus x. Remember, we got to expand this. This is sine of a plus b. So sine of a cosine of b plus cosine of a sine of b. And that should equal cosine of x. Now, remember this right here. We can look at our unit circle. Alright, sine of power of 2. Alright, if you remember what power of 2 is, that's 90 degrees. So that point is 0 and 1. So sine of power of 2 is 1. So this is 1. This is times cosine of x. Cosine of power of 2 is 0. So that's 0 times sine of x. This is 0. So now 1 times cosine of x is cosine of x. 0 times sine is 0. So cosine of x plus 0 is cosine of x, which equals cosine of x. So that's verified. Right here, we got to show that cosine of 3 pi over 2 minus x equals negative sine of x. All right, again, that's a minus b. And 3 power 2 is 270 down here. So that point is 0, -1. So cosine, we're going to have cosine 3 power 2, cosine of B, plus sine of A, sine of B. That should equal negative sine of X. So now let's verify it. You have cosine of 3 power 2. Cosine is going to be 0 times cosine of X. Sine of 3 power 2 is -1 times sine of X. Now 0 times cosine of X is 0. -1 times sine of X is going to be a negative sine. And 0 minus sine of X is negative sine of X, which equals negative sine of X. So that too is verified, all right? All right, find all solutions. We're finding all solutions. You do just that. But remember, we're going to apply the same rules we just did above, okay? So cosine, and this is not verifying, guys. I know it equals 1. You got to find all solutions between 0 and 2 pi. So let's start right here. Cosine of X plus pi over 3. We got to expand this. So I'm going to do this one in blue. So this is going to be cosine of X, cosine of pi over 3, minus sine of X, sine of pi over 3. Sine of A, cosine of A, cosine of B, minus sine of A, sine of B. All right. Now, I'm going to do the same plus sign that's right there, this plus sign right here. And then I'm going to do this side in red so you can see the difference. So cosine of A minus B this time. So cosine of X, cosine of pi over 3, plus sine of X, sine of pi over 3, and that equals 1. Now, that's the red right there. That's the plus. Now we need to simplify things. We can actually find cosine of pi over 3. All right, if you look at your unit circle real quick, cosine of pi over 3 is 1/2, and sine is radical 3 over 2. So I'm going to write it right here, 1/2 radical 3 over 2 so you can see it. So cosine of X is cosine of X. Cosine of pi over 3, cosine is 1/2. So times 1/2. So that is 1/2 cosine of X, right? Right here, sine of X, or negative sine of X, sine of pi over 3 is radical 3 over 2. So times radical 3 over 2. So this gives me a negative radical 3 over 2 sine of X, right? If you multiply those out. Don't forget that plus right there. Same plus. All right, cosine of X times cosine of pi over 3, which is 1/2. Gives me 1/2 cosine of X. And then sine of X times sine of pi over 3. Radical 3 over 2. Gives me radical 3 over 2 sine of X, which equals 1. Now, look for like terms. So I have negative radical 3 over 2. Well, I have 1/2 cosine of X plus 1/2 cosine of X. 1/2 plus 1/2 is going to be a whole 1. 1/2 plus 1/2, or 0.5 plus 0.5 is 1. So that gives me 1 cosine of x. And then right here, negative radical 3 over 2 plus radical 3 over 2 sine of x. So negative radical 3 over 2 sine of x plus radical 3 over 2 sine of x. Negative plus itself is 0. 0 sine of x. So we have cosine of x equals 1. So where does cosine of x equal 1? I look back at my unit circle. Cosine is the x value. So where's the x value 1? Right here. It's 0. Or 0 pi. So 0 pi. X equals 0 pi. Why didn't I put 2 pi? Y'all see this notation right here? That's an open interval. Alright, so it's not equal to. This is equal to 0. So from 0 to 2 pi. So that means less than 2 pi. Alright, last problem. Let's get all this out of the way. Alright, real quick. I need tangent of pi and cosine of cosine. Well, I need, okay. So tangent of pi. Let's do that. Tan of pi. All right, remember tangent is 0, 1. Oh, take that back. Negative 1, 0. So tangent would be sine over cosine. So tangent of pi is 0. Now for cosine of pi over 2 and sine of pi over 2, we need both of those. All right, remember pi over 2 is 90 degrees, so that point is 0, 1. So that means cosine is 0, sine is 1. All right. So now let's expand on this. So this gives me tan of x plus pi is going to be tan of a plus tan of b all over 1 minus tan of a times tan of b. Cosine of x plus pi over 2, or cosine of a plus b, is cosine of a, cosine of b, minus sine of a times sine of b. Now, right here, let's simplify this. Tangent x is tangent x. Tangent of pi is 0. Remember, tangent x is just tangent x. Tangent of pi is 0. Cosine of x times cosine of pi over 2 is 0. So that's 0 times cosine of x. Right here, sine of pi over 2 is 1, so that's 1 times negative sine. Now, tan x plus 0 is tangent x. Anything plus 0 still remains the same. Right here, this is 0. 0 times tangent x is 0, so that's 1 minus 0 is 1. Right here, 0 times cosine of x is 0. And right here, this negative and this negative becomes a positive, so plus sine of x. So now tangent x over 1 is tangent plus sine of x. Now, we just need to finish this. This is sine over cosine. I need common denominators. All right, this goes back to our last test. So if I put cosine down here, I must put cosine up here. Right? So this gives me at the top sine of x plus sine x cosine x all over cosine x equals 0. Now at the top, I think we can actually factor this. Alright. So if I factor this, I'm going to factor out sine x, right, times 1 plus cosine all over cosine. So that gives me tangent x, and that gives me 1 plus cosine x equals 0. So where does tangent x equal 0? Well, we just discovered that, right? Pi. But not only pi, 0 pi as well. Because remember, 0 has a unit circle point of 1, 0. So sine over cosine is also 0. And then right here, subtract 1 over. So cosine of x equals -1. What does cosine equal -1? That's pi as well. So we have pi and 0 pi is the solution. I didn't write this twice because we already have pi. So there's our solution. Hey, sorry this got long, man. I just tried to be as detailed as possible. I just wanted to make sure, man, you got what you needed in this video. So, I hope this helps, and I will catch you later. Oh, join me during the live chat session, okay? Catch you later.